Hi, my name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I'm going to say thank you for tuning in. Today I want to talk about something that I might get in some people's feelings with what I got to say right now. Not in the feelings I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to be straight up and just going to start to speak about something of this concept of, I hear this so much when it comes down to people talking about these dogs. And it's something that I just don't see anywhere else except us as humans. We do this system, and the system of getting paid and going to work. The system of having to, in reality, be able to eat in a way, as opposed to knowing how to be able to just, in my opinion, the natural ways of all of us should be living is on a sense of, I'm raising chickens, so I got a whole abundance of it. You got some veggies and some spices and stuff, and we just switch, and that's all that we do. Like a bartering system, I guess I can say. And all of us have something that we're good at and do at, and we all just work with each other. I'm not here to raise these chickens so that I can be able to put a dollar amount on it so that you could take your dollars from stuff that you sell. That's a weird system that we as humans have put together. And that's the system that in reality causes us to have to fight with each other and have to keep on all this pressure back and forth, as opposed to us competing with our own selves in a way of, I want to know how to get better at growing better chickens. I want to make it easier. I want to just do that sense of it, of you're focused on your stuff to get in a good place, as opposed to I need to sell more so I can get more money than the person over there. And the more money I have, the more this. It's the more. And this is the thing that I hear a lot of people when it comes down to these dogs. I wouldn't expect my dog to work for me and not pay them. That's such a human concept that I don't see chickens out working to get food. I don't see cows out working to get food. I don't see wild dogs out working to get food. It's like, this is, I'm always going to look at this in a biblical sense of they already have what they need to be able to live. They don't have to do anything extra but just live. That's all that they have to do. But us as humans today, we used to be that way, I believe. But today we no longer are allowed to just be able to live. We have to try to do so much to just be able to survive. And when we're in that mindset, what mindset do you think that the dog is in when you're doing stuff like this? When you're, if you perform, if you work better, I'll pay you more. When a boss does that to you, how does that really, truly, really make you feel? And especially on the days that just say, you're really not doing that great. You didn't have a great, quarter or annual review or whatever, and you don't get the bonus and you don't get the stuff. How does that make you feel? It may get in your brain of, I'm going to work harder next year. I'm going to work more. But most cases, you know what actually really happens in that? You don't get no bonus from it still, no matter how much harder you work. They still just like, good job, great job. And when you retire working for 40, 50, 60 years at a company, what do they give you? A little watch. And they say, congratulations. And they might give you a pizza party and throw 2 pizzas there and expect everyone, all 1,000 employees, to share from that 2 pizza boxes. How are you in the end of all of that? Are you like super satisfied? Are you so eager? Are you just so excited? Because the biggest thing is, especially when it comes down to working for other people, working for yourself, you're going to work much, much, much harder, hopefully. But if you don't, you're not going to succeed. But you're going to work much, much, much harder on your own stuff, as opposed to working for somebody else. And wouldn't you think that the dog would do the same thing? It would want to work harder for itself, as opposed to working for you. These are the games that I keep hearing people talk about, that I need to pay the dog because the dog is working. That's so humanizing it and putting it in the toxic way that we as humans are, as opposed to a natural way of you just because I'm going to give to you just because. You don't have to, because this is the thing that I started to get real weary with dog training stuff, especially in the school, when it's like, well, the dog doesn't want to work, so make him work for the food. So his only way to be able to survive, to eat on these lands, to be able to live, is to do an obedience routine, to get the dog to get the better and better and better and better. But the only way the dog is able to survive, that's the part of me that I just don't see it that way, period. The dog gets a chance to eat because it's alive and it's with me. That's the way I look at it. That's mandatory for me to do. I'm going to give you your food. I'm going to give you your water. I'm going to give you some shelter. I'm going to give you some safety. I'm going to take care of your medical needs. Guaranteed. You don't need to do nothing but breathe. You could be running out of food and I'm still going to give you your food. The food has nothing to do, and paying the dog has nothing to do with why the dog is being, say, disrespectful or disobedient. That has nothing to do with it. And the more that in reality we're playing with the food in this sense of trying to get the dogs to perform for you, the less that they're really going to want to perform all that great. They're going to look good. It's going to look good for a little while. But what starts to happen is this toxicity has to start to happen. That the dog's going to have to start pushing, because the dog is going to say, you know what? I appreciated those 2 treats you gave me, but I want 8. You know what? I appreciate that 8, but how about you just drop that whole package, lady? Because I want the whole package right now. That pushiness is going to have to start to happen. And especially if It's in the sense of the dog compared to us as humans. I can at least explain to the human, like, you can't just demand raises every weekend. Like, you're going to get fired. I'm going to fire you. And if you want to continue to keep on coming at me, I'm going to have security, make sure that you can't come around. If you still want to keep fighting at that, then I'm going to have the police come and put some charges on you. You want to keep going past that, we're going to have to lock you up. Like, it's a cycle of you can't just keep demanding more. But we allow that for the dogs to happen. Oh, you want to raise? Cool. I'll just give it to you. Oh, you want to? Oh, cool. Just give it to you. And just keep doing that over. And that's the toxicness behind it. That's where things, it could look cute for up front, but it's what's actually going on in the core of the, say, mindset, the thinking of all the situation here. The dog shouldn't have to compete to live. It should just live. This is what we as humans have been doing with these dogs for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We're just wanting them to just be with us. We've seen a dog out taking our scraps, and we're like, hey, it's pretty cool animals. Let's bring these animals close to us, give them more scraps. And then we're like, hey, these dogs are actually pretty cool. So then we start to get them to do stuff that they already like doing and that we like doing, and then we just keep pairing that together. I'm not getting the dog to do something foreign so that it needs to get a paycheck, and that's the weird part about it. That's the part with, unfortunately, most of us that live on these lands today. We're all doing work that's not us. It's not who we are. And of course you got to get paid in that, because and in reality you got to get paid or you're not going to do anything, because you don't know how to. The thing is, it's not even know how anymore. It's unfortunate a system that we're in that you don't get a choice. The only way you can survive to be able to live another day is if you go work over there and go do something. If you don't do that, then you're not going to be able to survive. And we're putting that language in the dog. You got to do this. If you don't, you're not going to be able to survive. How great do you feel living under these guidelines? How great do you feel getting your paycheck and cashing your checks, knowing that that's how it works? That's how it is. That if you didn't show up, then you're not going to be able to live. You may, here in the United States of America, you don't need money to still eat and live here. There's a lot of places you can go that can. But if you want to be able to choose and pick what you want, then yeah, you gotta go and do that. Most people, you absolutely hate your work. You just can't stand your work. You have days that it's like, hey, sometimes it's pretty cool. You got people that work that sometimes it's pretty cool. But the whole concept of it, the whole situation, most of y'all hate, like, I'm going to use that word of hate. You hate the work. You can't stand the system. You can't stand how it is. You can't stand having to show up just to be able to survive. You can't stand having to just go so hard and just get so little in the back end of it. You just can't stand that. But yet you want your dog to feel that same way, don't you? You want the dog to have that same sense that it needs to be able to know that if it doesn't perform, it's not going to be able to eat. That's the mind that I want people to really understand. Most people that get hurt, they like to hurt. Most people that are living in chaos, they like to put others in chaos. Most people that are getting abused like to abuse. It's a cycle that just keeps going. Most people that are getting bullied, they got a bully. It's how it is. So most of y'all hate your work, so you want to get your dog to hate its life in reality the same way, because you can't stand it. And you're like, I can't live in a household that something is just, a good word to use here is a freeloader and just having a good life. Like, no, that dog needs to do something. It needs to contribute to this family. And if you have a, say, working dog for a working purpose that you got that animal to do, then, cool. But like 99% of people don't. You have a pet dog. The pet dog is something that you should just look at and just say, I appreciate you, and just give to that animal the way that animal needs to be given to. Not playing games to get the dog to be in that same, hold on. Hold on. To be into that same sense that you also are in this level of toxicness of hate that you can't stand your work. And you can't stand seeing them sit there, because, I mean, if you got an older kid, you definitely understand what I'm saying. You don't want your 18-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, 18 today is like normal, but you don't want your 38-year-old kid sitting at the house doing absolutely nothing. You're going to be like, you're going to call him that freeloader. You got to go up, you got to get up, you got to make something happen. But that kid is not the dog. The dog should automatically be able to have a chance to be able to live, to be able to survive, to be able to just thrive. It shouldn't have to do all this extraness to try to perform to be able to be in your presence. That's where things are weird. That's where the toxic stuff has to start to happen. Because if you just really, really enjoyed your work, you're like, my work is the best, I like my work, maybe you'll get me a little bit. But most people, and even if you do have your own work, you still can't stand your work. You still have this stuff in it where it's just like, I just don't care for this. And again, that's the part of just our weird system that we have. But the animals don't live under that system. The animals, we put them out there and they're able to do what they need to do. And if they don't do what they need to do to survive, to go find food, to go this, in most cases they just don't make it because they get hurt or something. And they're just not gonna survive. And it's everything is in reality is set up as an overall unlimited abundance for them to be able to work from. But we as humans, we change that to having to work and having to get paychecks and having to make money. And now it's not bad enough that we do that. Now we want the animals to have to do that. Now we want, some people even do that with every animal, not only just the dogs, but you're doing that with everything. You're hey, if you don't this, then I'm not going to that. Hey, if you don't perform this way, I'm not going to give you this. If you don't act right like this, then I'm not going to give you access to that. That's so horrible. That's a horrible way to live, a horrible way to be. And that's going to bring tension that just doesn't need to be there. And that tension is what I want a lot of people to just really get out of, get away from, to get more into a more peaceful, enjoyable experience. And because a lot of what we just do as humans to human is so stressful, and we're doing it to each other that in reality, you don't have to. You can step out and get away from that. You do not have to play that same system that they do. You have to do the system based on I need to be able to eat and be able to survive, go over there. But when you come home, you do not need to bring that system back into your house. You can leave that system out there and come home into something completely different. The dog, especially the dog, especially your children, they shouldn't have to perform, because this toxic stuff happens with children. They shouldn't have to perform to be able to get attention and affection from you. They should just be able to be there to be able to get that. They shouldn't have to perform to be able to have you keep them safe. That should be a guaranteed thing that you're supposed to be, you're obligated to do, in my opinion. You have to do that. But nowadays it's no, you gotta do this for me to want to pay attention to you. You gotta do this for me to want to be around you. That's the weirdness. And once that starts, that's where the chaos is going to have to start. That's where the dog is now going to look at you in that tit for tat type scenario. That, well, I only do it because of this now. And now they don't want to do anything at all without the extra. It's just like today for us to say to go to work and they're not going to give us a paycheck anymore. How many days are you going to do that before you just decide, I just don't want to do this? Some people will just keep going because it is what they like doing stuff. You can't just sit at home all day and do absolutely nothing, regardless of even if your bills are paid, you still got to do stuff. But most people, if the day that your employer says you're not getting paid no more, what are you going to do? You're going to quit. You're done. And what do you think the dog is going to do? You're the one that's sitting there giving it his paycheck. And the moment that you don't give it a paycheck, what's going to happen? Your dog's not going to want to be there no more. But when your dog already understands how to be able to live because it knows that it's going to get what it needs without having to do all this performance type stuff to make you, I don't know what word to use here, but to make you feel good because my dog can do all these little tricks and cues and commands and all this stuff, then the dog isn't never going to have that mindset of living in, the good word is living in lack, living in survival mode. If a dog is with you, it should be thriving. It shouldn't be surviving. It should not think that I'm not going to get because of anything that's going on with it. And that's where, in my mind, because someone would say, oh, if the dog is aggressive and it's biting, then we got to change that roll up. But I would say, why did the dog even to the first place get into that situation that is aggressive and biting? We can't just ignore the whole sequence of how it started and just only look at the end part and say, oh, the dog is this, so now we gotta act and treat him like this. Because all that's gonna happen is you're gonna try to change that roll up, and then all that's gonna change is, again, you're going to change the role of, oh, now the dog needs to work to be able to be around me, to the day that, oh, now the dog is looking good. And now you're going to stop giving the dog that paycheck all the time. What do you think is going to happen? The dog's going to go right back in. It's a cycle that just keeps spinning and around and around and around, as opposed to getting out of that complete system. That complete system. We're putting too much on these dogs where we're humanizing them too much. And we're humanize them not even in, unfortunately, the positive qualities that we have. We're humanize them in the negative qualities that we as humans portray to the world. And that's where I see more and more issues, especially when it comes down to a simple pet dog inside of the house. We're humanize it in a way of all the toxic gossiping, slandering, gossip. Did I say gossiping? What's another one to use in there? I can't think of that third word. What's the talking about? But whatever, doing all that. That's what we're doing. We're putting all that onto the dogs, as opposed to the side of the dogs of just being more kind and more compassionate and more caring. We're not doing that. That's like, let's stay away from that. But again, whatever is coming to you in your world, that's for the most part what you are also putting out to everything that's around you. It's just a cycle that I want people to see that you're in that cycle and try to your best to step away and get out of that cycle, because that cycle is just absolutely destructive. It's so destructive. It's not bringing any sort of peace. It's bringing more and more confusion, bringing so much confusion. It's so weird to me that it's like now all of a sudden this last 20, 30 years, all the dogs to just be able to live in the house, they got to get a paycheck to be there. They got to get a paycheck to go for a walk. But thousands of years before, what were we doing? Were we giving? No, we weren't doing. In reality, most people, you're giving the dog the last of the last of just a little bit that you had. And the dog was exceptionally happy to be there. It was just the joyous thing to be there. And this is what's weird. The more that we as humans keep intervening with these animals, the more these animals start to act like humans and no longer like the natural instincts of that animal. They start to do and act and be the same way as us. That's why for me, I had one, I had to get rid of him like 4, 5, 6 years ago. My first rooster I ever had. I treated him like those games. And he turned into being the most hostile, most aggressive, most evil. He just looked like a human. That's all that he was. He wasn't a chicken no more. And I'm seeing this in the dogs. The dogs are acting more like us as opposed to acting the way that they are with each other. If there's an abundance amount of resources, the dogs are able to figure out how to be able to get what it is that they need. So there may be the one that's like, I want to eat first. Like, hey, cool, buddy, go eat your food. But once we realize that there's an unlimited food source, because this is the problem with a lot of dogs is they breed too fast. They breed like pests in reality. It's a not pest, but vermins like they breed too fast and too much. I mean, they'll have like 10 dogs in like 2 months, and it's just weird that they could just do that like 3 times a year. They breed too much too fast. But in the natural way of the world, those 10 puppies, like maybe only one's going to make it in reality. So, but if there's if they're living in a place of an abundance, they're not going to have this fight that they're constantly doing over and over and over. There may be a fight of say, hey, this is mine. But then the dog is going to say, oh, shucks, I'm just going to go over there and just get more of what I want anyways. They start to fight because we as humans start to do what? Play games with them. We start to limit the resources. We start to change how they're able to get the resources. We start to do all these things. And the dogs start to have to fight. They have to start to get hostile with each other. When you watch the videos of the people that just lay a whole deer carcass down, you're going to get that one dog that's like, I want to eat first. But if there's a whole deer carcass there and they're all eating off of that, everyone's going to eat. Day after day after day, week after week after week, those dogs are just going to all eat. They're just going to hang out. This is the weird thing about proper rearing. I don't know if you call it that with raising puppies, but the proper rearing of raising puppies and how a lot of these dogs end up with, say, food aggression, because the owner will just lay down a limited amount of kibble and then have all the dogs just go in there and eat. And then there's always going to be that 1 or 2 or 3 dogs that just didn't quite get full. And it's going to have to like start to learn, I want to eat more. So it's going to have to start to learn, I need to start to fight more. But if you put down a whole bucket of food, an unlimited amount of food for these puppies to be able to eat the way that they're able to first start their life is eating as much as you need to eat. Same with us as humans. You don't want to limit a child from eating. They eat until they need to stop eating. But the thing is, eat good food. You eat good food, you're going to be fine. But you're going to eat until you just can't stop eating. When the cows are giving milk to their babies, they're allowing them to eat as much as absolute possible, as much as possible. When you start to limit that, you start to play games with that, that's where the weirdness starts to happen. Because you go watch that from litters of puppies, that they're just eating. There's an abundance of food. They're falling asleep on the food. They wake up like, oh, there's still more food. There's food. And these dogs just don't have those issues because they're able to get already in their brain of, I'm going to get what I need to survive. And that's what we as humans should be bringing to our dogs at all times. I'm going to give you what you need. You're going to have what you need. And most cases, the reasons that the dogs are acting, say, weird with food and weird with stuff is because of these games. It's got nothing to do with the dog being pushy because it doesn't want to listen to you. It's because you're playing games with it that don't need to be there. The same way that, your employer playing a game with you, saying, hey, I'll give you some overtime work, and then he doesn't, or you do the overtime work, he don't give you the money for it. How you going to act? How does that going to go down with you? You're going to be like such in this, like this weird, this weirdness. You're gonna have this negative about that situation that you're almost probably like, I want to look for a new job. I need to go somewhere different. And why wouldn't you think the dog wouldn't want to do the same thing? You know, I used to like working for this person, but now seems to be fair. I kind of want to work for somebody else now. And then what do? We layer it in harder and harder. We make it stricter and stricter. We make it stiffer and stiffer. We just keep making it worse for the dog. Whereas at least for us, it's kind of like, unfortunately, how the military is, you can't really quit. You can't really even get fired. It's just, you're kind of just stuck. And that's kind of like what we're doing to the dogs. We're putting them in the military. You're stuck. You don't get a choice. You can't just go and find a new job. You absolutely have to keep doing this. And that's a horrible mindset to be in. When we're thinking about this concept of, like, especially us with work, and then especially with doing that to the dog. I want the dog to be able to have the choice. Do you want to work with me? If not, then, maybe I need to figure out what I need to do to get you to be able to want to work with me, just for wanting to be with me, because that's what dog represents for thousands of years. We're not sitting here trying to get the dog to stay with us because I'm just giving it a treat after treat after treat and doing these play sessions with it all the time. No, the dog is there because it just wants to be there. That's what's so cool about them. I just watched a video of a guy, a farmer guy that I like. You're not much of a farmer. I say more of a head. What do you call it? Homesteading type stuff. That he lost his pigs, and I've had the same situation that animals get loose. Man, it just like dropped 20 degrees right this second. It's just creepy. That's so weird. Like a whole air gust just came in, and it's just like air conditioning just hit me. I think it's about to be a downpour for a little bit. But sorry, the weather here is weird. I guess next week it's about to be in the 40s and the 30s again, and we were just in the 90s. And at this moment, it should never go back to no 40s. We should only be going to like 115 degrees right now. And there's some weird things that are going on out here that I've been sitting out in this patio for years and just seeing the differences of everything that's going on. But the dogs are like, he lost his pigs, and then he's like, oh my goodness, I'm nervous. But where you feed the pigs and you give them their food, they have a pretty much unlimited source of food. They're going to come back. They're coming back. And that's the same thing with the dog. You got that food there for that dog. That dog's going to come back. That's just animals. That's just what they do. I mean, us as humans, if there's a place that you can go to that has an unlimited amount of cash for you to just pick up every time, you're going to keep coming back. You're going to keep going there. You're not going to go anywhere else because you're going to go towards the easiest way to get what it is that you need to be able to survive. And then once you get through that survival, you're moving into that thriving mindset, then yeah, we can start to do extras. But we never want the dogs to think that they need to do to be able to survive. Because that's how the toxicness with us as humans is right now. We're living that. And it's to me shown out in our world as being an absolute disaster. It's something that is just it's not a healthy thing for us. It's really unhealthy. It puts us to have to fight against each other, to have to battle with each other, to have to argue with each other, to have to do everything with each other. It doesn't put us to push our creativity to want to see the best in. We're pushing our creativity to want to see the worst in. And that's the downfall that I see of us as humans. And now it's like, oh, I don't only just want that for us. I want to put that on everything. All the animals need to act that way. Everything needs to act that way. That's so toxic. Thank you. The weather is strange. I don't know what the weather's like for you guys everywhere, wherever you're living at. But I pay very, very close attention to all the weather patterns because I like watching the animals and see how the animals are, seeing how much hair they grow, how much they shed, and all of that to figure out. Look at this little girl. Can you see that? Where's she at? Is there a zoom on here? There is. Where is she? This dang cow is. Oh, there she is. She is on top of my mulch thing. I don't know what these cows act like goats sometimes. It's such an interesting thing. And she's up there like I'm just a king on a mountain right now. It's so funny. Weird stuff weird stuff that I see out here. It's just a cool. She's standing on top of it, just staring at me like, "What's up, man?" I'm like, "Hi." It's just the coolest thing. But yeah, I just been noticing weird, and then hearing stuff about people are still in deep freezes and stuff right now. What are we in April now? And it's so strange. Usually it's rainy. It's not raining too much, but the other day we got like 2 or 3 inches or so of rain. It was like rain. All my buckets were like full of rain, just rain on rain. But it's something that I just, because that's the number one way for anyone that's like, how do I take care of animals and make sure that my animals want to stay with me? Feed them. Make sure that they have a source of unlimited amount of food, and they are never, ever, ever going to want to leave you, because that's the mindset of an animal. That's how you put out a bird feeder. how to get birds next to your house. You put that bird feeder out and you keep it full all the time. And you are going to see an abundance of this, a beautiful oasis of everything is going to want to come around there. And when you feed them, they just stay. They hang out. And then you can start to do stuff with them once they just want to stay and hang out. And that's how you get the cows, the goats, the everything to stay. You give them food, unlimited amount of food. Know that they still look over there. There's food, there's food. And they just calms them down and it makes them relaxed. But once you start to put that scarcity in there, you're like, oh, no this and oh, no that. Weird things start to happen. And I'm seeing that with the dogs. That weird stuff starts to happen because the dog's getting in his brain of, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to eat or not. What do I have to do to be able to eat or not? And those are games that now the other one's climbing up on the top there. These cows are just so darn funny. It is. It's getting harder for me to really like think about eating beef. The more I just keep, it's the babies. I've seen 2 babies, but they were both boys, and they act differently than the girls for sure. And the girls, seeing all the little girl babies, there's something about them that's just, I guess I'll just keep eating the males. I won't eat the females. Leave it at that. That's kind of how I do my own chickens as well. I raise out males. I don't raise out females. From my meat birds, but it's kind of how even my dogs eat. They eat all the males as well. They don't really eat too much of the females. But it's the games that I'm seeing is causing this craziness with a lot of animals, and especially these dogs. When you have that mindset of I need to pay the dog to do something for me. That's a strange thing to me, because if the dog is, say, doing the natural task that it wants from us, then the payment is going to be already like something that the dog like really desires. That's more of a natural sense, such as most cases, it's a chase. That's why for me, at the end of the day, if I'm going to pay my dog, it's going to be in a form of a toy. I don't really call my working stuff toys, like my ball and string and all that. It's a toy, but those are like training aids more than a toy. But I'm going to use a toy to get into the dog's instincts that way. That's more natural to the dog than give a reward in the sense of give the dog a piece of food. A piece of food is going away from the natural desires of like pretty much how this world is. It's going to set the dog to be like just like very, very strange, very strange. And I see this very strange for a lot of people because we're playing a lot of games that get into the dog's brain that's just it's not healthy. Playing with food with humans for sure, because that's how you can play with people's money with being at a job. Which is, if they're playing with your money, they're basically playing with your food. And if they're playing with your food, you start to get weird. You can start to have riots. You can start to just do some weird, crazy, wild things because you're getting played with your level of being able to survive. But if you're able to get past that and able to get into a sense of I'm thriving, I'm no longer surviving, then you're going to start to see a completely different way of living on these lands, of being able to get further into your creativity to help, as opposed to your creativity to destroy. Y'all ready to go for a run? Johnny's still tired from yesterday. I can't run this dog that much. Like, I don't give these dogs no nothing to like try to get them to be with me, and yet their desire to be closer to me just keeps building more and more and more. Because it's not coming down to I give you something to be with me, when all that's in their genetic makeup is to want to be with us, just because that's what they are. That's what they're made of. They want to be with us, and it's a very strange thing on how we're trying to convince others that that's not what dogs are. Dog only wants to be with you because of all the treat or the toy or the game or the this. No, dog just wants to be there.